How's the tea, brothers? Soft, not smooth tea. No sugar, no questions. Only Islamic questions. No questions about tea. That's the first thing everybody asks when they drink it. What's the recipe? You can't get these jazz that fast. That's the tea? Come on, man.
Alright,
Type.
um, ABC Deaf, from Copenhagen. The question is, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bless you and your family. May you have Jannah. You have earlier mentioned buying house with riba can be necessary. Please explain further.
طيب بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Before we get started with the question, the book that I'm going to introduce to you, some of you may already have the book. It's called Al-Jami' lil-Mutun al-Ilmiya. Al-Jami'u lil-Mutun al-Ilmiya. The author of the book, or the Jami', the compiler, is Abdullah ibn Muhammad al-Shamrani. And this is basically, it says here, إثنان وثلاثون متنا في مختلف العلوم. He says this is it's 32 mutun, 32 small books in different fields and different arts of Islam. A metin, a small book that a beginner starts off with memorizing and studying in aqidah, in fiqh, and hadith, and the rules of inheritance, Arabic grammar, a metin, a small beginner's manual. So this is a compilation of 32 of those mutun. And what makes this book special, it says مقابلة على عدة نسخ مضبوطة ضبطا كاملا. It says, and this is a very accurate version of the book or the books that has been based off of several authentic manuscripts. So, for example, we have the first book after the introduction of the compiler. Let's say, for example, and the author or the compiler, he gives you a history of the books and their manuscripts. We have, for example, first and foremost is what? مقدمة في أصول التفسير. The introduction concerning the principles of tafsir by Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. Extremely important book for a beginner who wishes to read the tafsir of the Quran and benefit from it. Then we have تحفة الأطفال والغلمان في تجويد القرآن, the small book regarding beginners tajweed, عقيدة طحاوية, لمعة الاعتقاد, عقيدة واسطية, أصول الثلاثة, etc. 40 hadith, etc. And the good thing about the book, number 2, is that all of the books are in one place for you. So you don't have to have a collection of small mutun. Also, the quality is all the same. You may memorize the Surah Thalatha with a certain quality, but the Kitab Tawheed may not be of the same quality. It's all the same. All the vowels are the same. All the tashkilat are there. And it's easier to memorize from one source, especially if you have a photographic memory. It's easier to memorize from one book, especially if you have a photographic memory. Rather, some Quran teachers say that when you're reading the Quran and studying the Quran, you should only use one mushaf. You should never ever have two mushafs. You should only have one Quran that you read from to get your eyes accustomed to. And when you're in the salah and reading in the salah, you can immediately go back to what it looks like. And there's no 2 or 3 different books. Alright? So this is an excellent book. Many of the brothers, when they were in Medina, they would carry this book around with them. They would read it, they would study it. And the beauty of it is that all of the tashkilat are there. So you don't have to worry about memorizing something improperly or incorrectly. The vowels, the fatha, dhamma is all there. And it's a good quality print. So inshallah ta'ala, al-Jami' lil-Mutun al-Ilmiya, if you get a chance to pick it up, you should pick it up as a student of knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. May Allah bless you. As far as the first question that comes from Copenhagen, with regards to, you mentioned before that buying a house on riba could possibly be a necessity. Please explain. Jazakallahu khairan for coming back to the original source. If there's something that you aren't 100% clear on, or something that you don't agree with, or something that you need further clarification on, the most proper thing to do is to go back to the original source and not go to another speaker and another person. Fulan said this, someone said that, let alone people that do things which are worse than that. So that's a good thing. May Allah reward you for that. As far as what I meant, or what this could possibly mean, then first and foremost, then it isn't something that I've made up and brought myself. This is something which is mentioned by some of the people of knowledge, and is a well-known Islamic principle. A well-known Islamic principle in which something which is haram and something which is from the major sins could be permissible at the time of compulsion and or necessity. Rather, some of the ulama of Islam, they have said, even if it isn't a means of necessity, but if there is a hajah, if there's a need for it, a need for it. So this principle obviously is based off of countless texts from the Quran and the Sunnah. Eating the flesh of swine. Maita, eating an animal which hasn't been slaughtered properly. Anything which is haram out of necessity. When a person is in a state of, he's compelled to do so. Alright? So, we're not here to explain that right now, the proofs and evidences for that. That's not what we have time for right now. Al-Muhim is that it's not specific just to buying a house on riba, but it's anything which is haram if there is a necessity and there is a need. And that is because preservation of oneself, preservation of the nafs, is one of the most important principles in the Sharia, to preserve yourself. So you have a choice between eating the flesh of swine and death. You choose eating the flesh of swine and not death, to preserve yourself in any other issue. So that's first and foremost. As far as the specifics with regards to buying a house, then the modern day scholars and modern day researchers, some of them, they differ on, is owning a house a necessity? Is it a necessity? Or is it a need? Obviously, some people, they say, you don't have to own anything. You can rent. That's fine. Or you can buy a house with all of the money all at once. Or you can find a way in which you can get the house can be financed throughout riba. Without riba. And there's no need to ever join a mortgage or any type of interest-based dealings with a house, period. And obviously those who say this, they have their proofs, they have their evidences, and they have their reasoning. It's not a necessity. You can survive with an apartment. You can live fine. Children can grow up. Everything's fine. As long as you're working, you save money, Allah is your protector. And others, they may say, rather, it is a necessity. How much money that you have to pay for rent? What happens when you don't have that money? What happens to your children, the next generation, the third generation? What will Muslims be, or what state will Muslims be in if they're always renting and they own nothing? They won't have any type of stability. They cannot establish Islam. If you can't own a house, let alone a center, a masjid, a recreation place, a gym for Muslim youth, we always have to rent. We always have to pay extra money. We always have to be at the mercy of someone, so on and so on and so forth. And having a house and a place to rest your head at night is safe and secure is from the basic necessities of the human being. From the basic necessities of the human what? Of the human being. Let alone the dangers that come from renting, such as you supporting and you supplying the money for the mortgage. Because the landowner or the landlord, the one who owns the building, he himself is, in many cases, paying mortgage. And he tells you, and it's well known that he's paying mortgage. And he may say, when I'm done paying all of the mortgage, you have to leave. Now I own the house, I'm going to give the house to my son, he's getting married. You're directly putting your money into the haram, according to what you think and believe and feel about the mortgage being haram. So there are many other problems that come from renting as well. And the concept of longevity. The concept of what? Longevity. A person is fine now, living is fine now, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What will the situation be? How much will the rent be? When you're old and weak and sick and injured and you can't work, where will you go? All right? So that's their rationale. That's their what? That's their rationale. That's their rationale. So therefore, some people, they may say that if it is a necessity, and obviously necessity cannot be established by a fatwa, necessity cannot be determined by a mufti. Necessity can only be determined by the person who's in the state of necessity. That's the only person who can determine if it is necessity. Are there general ground rules? Yes, of course. One can say you didn't have to make tayammum, the water wasn't that cold, or you had a towel, or you could have heated up the water, etc. But the general concept of what is and what is a necessity goes back to the person himself. To you, it was freezing cold. I had to make tayammum. And I say to me, Bismillah, it's all right. I'll shiver a little bit. I'll get over it. The thought of you getting sick, catching pneumonia, getting the flu is terrifying. To me, maybe nothing. So that varies from person to person. So these are some of the reasons, not all of them, but some of the reasons why we have said that some scholars and some researchers have said that it could be a necessity to do certain things in certain situations with regards to having a mortgage and with regards to paying off a mortgage. Everyone understand this? There's not a ruling saying that it's halal to go. No. It could be, we said, according to some. As far as the discussion of mortgages and what is riba, is there differently riba and usury? That's another discussion in itself, in which economists and financial specialists differ over in Islam and outside of Islam. What is meant by riba and the rulings of riba in the modern world today, and how most of the world, if not all of the world, on one level or another, is dealing with riba, and the extreme difficulty that a person will have not having anything to do with any type of bank or formal bank. That's a discussion in itself, and as a scholarly debate in itself. Hopefully that's clear and Allah knows best. Fadl.
What's the ruling on having a book in your library with an image on it, like a picture of a man?
Question says, what's the rule in having a book in your library with an image on it? In brief, if there's a need for the image, let's say if it's an educational book or a book of some type of historical documentation which is important for children and for people to learn from, then some of the ulama have allowed that. Some of the ulama of Islam have allowed that, such as Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala. Alright, that's the brief answer specifically to your question. But obviously the picture is going to be based off of the issue of tasweer. What is tasweer and what isn't tasweer? Is it haram for a person to take a photograph? Or is it only haram for a person to illustrate with his hand and sculpt with his hand and mold with his hand? Now that's obviously a long discussion we've spoken about many times before. But for argument's sake, those who say that you can't take pictures, some of them say it's permissible to keep the pictures in a magazine or in a book if it has some type of useful educational purpose. And Allah knows best. Abu Amin.
When you read the Quran and you come to a sentence like the people of Lut, and oftentimes I get confused in that statement because I want to say alayhi salam, but is it directed to Lut or is it directed to the people of Lut? So I start to think to myself, I shouldn't say it if it was preceding it as people of
Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Question is regarding when you read the Quran al-Kareem and you come across an ayah that talks about Qawmu Lut, the people of Lut. Do you say alayhi salam because Lut, his name is being mentioned? Or is it going back to the people who are wicked sinners who were destroyed, etc.? Right. First and foremost is, when you're reading the Quran, you shouldn't say anything except for what you're reading. If you come across the ayah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, don't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, keep reading the ayah. You mention the messenger of Allah's name in a hadith, you say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam. Everybody clear on this? But when you're reading the Quran, you just what? You keep going. Alright? But if a person said in a sentence, the people of Lut, alayhi salam, his intention is based off of Lut, alayhi salam. And you're not saying alayhimus salam, nor even dealing with the people of Lut. So la ba's. La ba's, inshallah. And Allah knows best.
Question OA from Famagusta, North Cyprus. Assalamu alaikum. Mufti. For whom should we or should we not call by their first names? Is it dependent on relationship, age, knowledge, etc.?
Question comes from Famagusta, North Cyprus. To who or whom not should we address by their first names? Does it depend on age, knowledge, status, etc.? May Allah bless you for your question and reward you well. I generally agree with you that it's going to be based off of the relationship and the age, etc. So your blood brother is not like a foreigner, someone that's outside of your immediate family. Even if your blood brother is older than you, or more knowledge, your blood brother may be a sheikh, a scholar, or an imam. All right? Or you may have a close personal relationship with an imam, and he doesn't mind it. It depends, like you just mentioned, it depends. But the general rule is that anyone who's older than you deserves some type of extra respect. The general rule is that those who have some type of status, especially in the deen, should have some type of further respect. And one of the easiest ways of manifesting your respect is someone's name. Like a police officer. Officer. Yes, officer. Basic respect to the police officer. You see what I'm saying to you? Yes, no. Yes, officer. Basic respect. Yes, in a courtroom, Your Honor. Now, when I get into the ruling of going to court and saying Your Honor, I'm just using the principle of calling someone with an honorific title. So that's the general, what? The general rule. Some cultures, you may find people, they never ever call someone older than by the first name. It's always Saab. Huh? Mufti Saab, right? You see what I'm saying to you? Baji or Didi or different, huh? Excuse my lack of, in-depth knowledge, but I know of it a little bit. In which there's some type of respectful name or given to somebody, even has a couple years older. Well, heck of that. So it depends. All right? And Allah knows best. Obviously, if a woman is married to a sheikh, she's not going to call him sheikh or imam. She's going to call him by his first name. If that.
NB from Toronto, Canada. What are the 7 most important books in your library?
That's a very interesting question. I have no idea who the questioner is. What are the 7 most interesting books in my library? Oh, man. Well, I mean, obviously, we know that the Quran al-Kareem is the best book, the greatest book, and the most interesting book. But I don't think the questioner is asking about that, right? I don't think the questioner is what? Asking about that. If I had to pick 7, it's interesting. I would say, first and foremost, without a question, Musnad Imam Ahmed. Without a question. After Musnad Imam Ahmed, for sure, Majmu' Fatawa Ibn Taymiyyah. Without a question. Number 3, if I had to pick a book after Ibn al-Qayyim's book, I'll say Zad al-Ma'ad of Ibn al-Qayyim. That's number 3. Number 4, Muhalla, Ibn Hazm. Without a question. Number 5, Fath al-Bari. Number 6, it's a very challenging question. After number 6, Nailul Awtar. Number 7, I would probably say. Number 6 was Nailul Awtar. Number 6. This is a very difficult question, and this is not in order. This is just off the top of my head. I would probably say the last one. If I had to pick one that was comprehensive, and I would probably say Fatwa al-Hamawiyya al-Kubra, Ibn Taymiyyah. Even though that's a part of Majmu' Fatawa, so that really doesn't really count. Say Ibn Kathir, Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Wallahu a'lam.
ES from England, didn't say his city.
Next question.
AA from Miami, Florida. Assalamu alaikum. Is it okay to wish Happy New Year's to non-Muslim friends and family?
Question, is it okay to say Happy New Year's to non-Muslim friends and family? You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that. Thank you very much. Have a good day. They say Happy New Year's, Happy Holiday. Thank you. Have a great day. Or even if a person, for argument's sake, said you too. For argument's sake. Because Happy New Year's, they're basically asking you to be safe. And asking and praying for you to be happy and okay. Have a good time, have a safe time. But yeah, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say it. But the general concept of saying something kind to someone and returning the basic wish for goodness to them in general. I said in general. That's an Islamic principle. As far as New Year's, Christmas, a specific holiday, Christian holiday, pagan holiday, then obviously we're not going to enjoy in that. But I don't think that's what a person always means when they say that, especially to a Muslim. You see what I'm saying to you? They're basically telling you, take care. It's like when someone says good luck. Meaning, may Allah bless you. May you make it out successfully. You see what I'm saying to you? So it depends. You can't lose by saying thank you. You have a great night. You be safe. There's nothing wrong with that. They can't get upset at that. And Allah knows best.
AC from London, UK. May Allah bless you, Sheikh. How do the ulama measure when there is ijma?
Question comes from where?
London, UK.
London, UK. How do the ulama measure when there is ijma? There's several different ways. And it's a very important question, several ways. One way is when there is a great scholar who mentions that there is ijma'. An imam who is muhaqqiq, a very erudite scholar, a strong, well-versed scholar, and not a scholar who is just a muqallid, and he stays in his own small circle of his madhab or his aqidah or his way, la. But a scholar who's muttali', who reads far and wide, like someone who's well-traveled, someone who's what? He's been to all the different continents, the different cities, he's been all over the place, and he tells you, you're not going to find it easily, or you're not going to find it at all. He's been around. It's not like someone who's only in one what? Small city. So one scholar who travels around these different madhabs and sources and books, and he's well versed, and he says, "Ajma'a ahlul ilm." The scholars unanimously agree. Oh, there's no khilaf. Ittafaqa ahlul ilm. La na'lamu li ahli ilmi fihi khilafan. Something like this. Then this is one way. But the condition for this is that the scholar cannot be known for being mutasahil, for being laxed in mentioning ijma'. And there are some scholars who are laxed when it comes to saying that something is what? Ijma'. And it actually isn't what? Ijma'. They may be a little laxed. Or there's certain scholars who say that there's ijma' because they exclude a few scholars, a few of the tabi'een, a few of the sahaba, and they don't consider their khilaf to affect the vast majority of the rest of the scholars. And that is scientifically incorrect. If he's an alim and he's mujtahid, his khilaf yu'athir. It has an effect upon the ijma'. There is no ijma' if this alim has a different view and he's mujtahid himself. Everyone understand this? Okay? So this is one of the ways. And this problem of certain scholars being laxed, quoting ijma', يعني يتساهلون في نقل الإجماع وادعاء الإجماع, is one of the reasons why some scholars say there's no ijma'. There's no ijma'. Some of them, they say this. And what they mean is not that there's no ijma', but they mean what these madhab people call ijma' doesn't exist. And there's always some khilaf of this sahabi and this tabi'i and this one. He said it was wajib, but they don't consider him to be important because he's not on their madhab. That's what they mean by that. But there are clearly many issues in Islam which is clear ijma'. And I don't think a scholar would just deny and reject the reality of ijma' in Islam. But with those madhabis and those fanatical blind followers call ijma' and say, that's what they're saying, there's no ijma'. Then there's a famous statement of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah that many people they quote, in which Imam Ahmad said, "Man idda'a al-ijma'a faqad kadhaba, laytahu la'allahum ikhtalafu." He says, whoever quotes ijma' is lying. Whoever claims that there is ijma' is not telling the truth. How do you know that they didn't differ? And what's meant by that is, it's difficult for a person to quote ijma' accurately all of the time, because there's so many different scholars and so many different places. And oftentimes the people, they quote ijma' based off of their surrounding areas. And that's incorrect. I know, living in Queens, Brooklyn, Long Island, the neighboring boroughs, this is what the weather is. But how do you know if it's raining or not in Yonkers? How do you know if it's raining or not in another part of New York, upstate New York? You're only quoting what's what? So that's dangerous. So there's one of the ways. Another way in which we know that there's ijma' is one, we have a naqlul mustafidhu an salaf or an ahl al-ilm, in which there's an opinion or statement or view which is so popular, so famous, and which is well known, and we have nothing to go against it, nothing on the contrary, nothing at all. He said it, he did it, they all said it and did it, and no one rejected it. That can prove that there could be ijma' on that issue. Everyone understand this? Such as the issue of Allah's names and attributes. There's ijma' of the Salaf al-Salih that this attribute is what it is, and it's literal and it's not figurative. And someone says, how do you know there's ijma'? Because all of the Salaf, they all said it, and we don't find one athar to go against what they all said, proving that they agreed on that. Okay? So there are different ways of proving that there's ijma'. The last and final way, which I will mention right now, which is similar to the first way, and this is one of the most beneficial ways of knowing ijma', is when there's someone who always goes against the jumhur. There's a scholar who isn't orthodox, and he doesn't agree with the main schools, and he always goes against them, and he's always independent in his own view. And he says there is no difference of opinion. This is from the strongest ways of knowing it is ijma'. Such as Imam Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah ta'ala. Ibn Hazm, who always went against the other madhabis, and refuted them and clarified their hypocrisy and their double standards. The Hanafis, the Malikis, the Shafi'is, they take a hadith here and they don't take it there. They take what the companion did here and they don't take it there. They take a fabricated hadith here and then they criticize another method for using a weak hadith. It's one of the reasons why they hated him so much. Ibn Hazm rahimahullah has a book called Maratib al-Ijma', in which he mentions the levels and the things on which there is ijma'. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala will always quote Ibn Hazm, and he also has a work that he made on that book as well, Naqdu Maratib al-Ijma'. And he mentions, وَهُوَ مِنْ عَالَمِ النَّاسِ, he's from the most learned of people regarding when they agree and when they differ. So when Ibn Hazm quotes that there's ijma', it's ijma'. Everyone understand this? And Allah knows best. That's in brief.
Essay from Ontario, Canada. If I believe niqab is mustahab, can I wear it without gloves?
The question comes from Ontario. If I believe that the niqab is mustahab, recommended, can I wear it without gloves? Without gloves. The ulama of Islam, they say, إِنَّ الْمُتَطَوِّعَ أَمِيرُ نَفْسِهِ. إِنَّ الْمُتَطَوِّعَ أَمِيرُ نَفْسِهِ. That the one who's doing voluntary worship is in charge of himself. The one who's doing voluntary worship is in charge of himself. Meaning, if it isn't obligatory, then you can do it like you want to. So it's not obligatory according to you to cover the hands and the face, but I just want to cover my face but not my hands. Tayyib. La bas. La bas. Nothing wrong with that. Inshallah ta'ala. If you want to make 2 rak'ahs of tarawih, make 2. If you want to make 4, make 4. If you want to make 6, make 6. Because it's not obligatory. It's voluntary. You're in charge of yourself. And Allah knows best. Fadl akhi. Welcome salam to Allah.
Continue to benefit us. When a masjid does combination salah, Maghrib and Isha,
Okay.
weather, and you miss the salah, what do you need to do? Do you pray Maghrib and then leave and do Isha later on, or you would, as a present, just do together?
Crystal clear. Question says, when a person comes to the masjid and he's discovered that they have combined the prayers because of inclement weather or difficult weather conditions or quote unquote bad weather conditions. No such thing as bad weather. All weather is good. Nothing is bad from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Snow is good, rain is good, it's all good, one way or another. But a weather condition which is considered bad, and the people combine the salah. I come in late, can I make the Isha with my Maghrib or not? If there's someone else in the masjid with you and you make your Isha, la bas. Make your Isha. As far as if you're by yourself, then you pray and go home and make your Isha in your home. Inshallah ta'ala. That's the best thing to do. And Allah knows best.
AC from London, UK. Is it permissible to buy Easter eggs?
Question comes from London, UK. Is it permissible to buy Easter eggs? Buying an Easter egg is like buying fruitcake for Christmas or candy canes. It's a piece of food. It's a piece of food. Does it symbolize religion or paganism or heathenism? It's a piece of food. What are you going to use it for? You going to eat the candy cane? I really like candy canes. I like fruitcake. It's good. I don't celebrate Christmas, but I like gingerbread cookies. It tastes good. Can't necessarily say that's haram. But what are you using the Easter egg for? Are you going to take the green or purple egg and crack it and put it in a frying pan? You see what I'm saying to you? That's one thing. Also, an Easter egg based off of what? Based off of what, Yani? Buying it during the time of Easter? My kids really like eggs. They really like the way they look. They're in the house. It's one thing. But not during the time of Easter. Not in April. Not nowhere during that pagan mushrik festival that they call what? Easter. Which is based off of debauchery and homosexuality and gender switching. Read the history of Easter. That's one of the reasons why they use the bunny. What rabbits do when they're born, how they switch sexes, how they multiply. It's all a part of Easter. But we don't want to get into that right now. Inshallah, the next khutbah, when Easter comes up, we'll do it on that like we did it on Christmas, etc. and Halloween. Everyone understand this? Al-Muhim is that an Easter egg has to have some type of tangible use. If you buy gingerbread cookies or candy canes, fruitcake, that's something that you're going to eat. You like to eat it. You like the taste of it. That's one thing. But what is the use of those colored eggs? You see what I'm saying? Who will buy colored eggs to cook them and eat them? If you're buying the colored eggs for your children and to play with toys or to have, I wouldn't advise with it at all. especially not during the time which is known as what? Easter. And Allah knows best.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brother. This is Ali Shabazz from Fresno, California. Can one say the book, Sunnah and Ijma, is all I need and disregard everything else?
Question comes from Fresno, California. Or Fresno, California. Can one say that the book, the Sunnah, and the Ijma is all I need and disregard everything else? Yes and no. Yes and no. From one aspect, all you need is the Quran and the Sunnah. That's it. But the no answer is that those other ways of determining something to be halal or haram, or what your aqidah should be, what you believe in as a Muslim, how to practice as a Muslim, those things are all based off of the Quran and the Sunnah, such as the understanding of the pious predecessors, such as ijma, such as qiyas. Qiyas. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that every drink which causes intoxication is haram. So therefore it's also haram to inject something which is an intoxicant. It's haram to put something in your veins which gets you high and gets you into a state. But the hadith says nothing about what? Injections. The hadith only says what? Liquor, malt liquor, wine. It says nothing about an injection or smoke or vapor or pill. But the pill and the liquor share one thing, and that is intoxication, getting you high, wasting your money, destroying your life, etc. So therefore they share something. One thing was mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah, one thing wasn't. So the thing which was not mentioned in the Quran was Sunnah, but it shares the same reason, it is now added with the ruling of the Quran and Sunnah. And that is the process called al-qiyas. Qiyas is based off of Quran and Sunnah. Allah says, فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. O men of understanding, فَاعْتَبِرُوا. Allah says, use your minds, use some sense. Meaning, what happened to Ad and Thamud and Fir'aun, what happened to anyone who disobeys Allah today. Even though the people today are not mentioned in the Quran. And that is the concept of qiyas. And i'tibar, the ubur, the ma'bar is a bridge, a road. Which means you go to one place, you go to the next destination, and you return to your starting place. That's qiyas. So qiyas is from Quran and Sunnah. Ijma' is from Quran and Sunnah. The understanding of the Salaf as-Salih is from the Quran and the Sunnah. Sadd al-dhari'ah, cutting off the door of something that leads to haram, is based off of Quran and Sunnah. So that's the no part. But the general concept is اتَّبِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُم مِّن رَبِّكُم وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. Follow what's been sent down to you from your Lord. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ يَزْعُمُونَ أَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. Allah says, have you not seen those who claim to believe in what's been sent down to you, O Muhammad? And that who has been sent down to those who came before you? In other words, that's what the munafiqun were supposed to follow. What was sent down upon Muhammad and nothing else. So that's my answer to that, and Allah knows best.
NB from Ontario, Canada. Advice for someone to get out of the sinning loop.
Get out of the what?
Sinning loop.
Sinning loop. Advice for someone to get out of the sinning loop. Ask Allah to make you strong. Ask Allah for courage, like we mentioned yesterday in the khutbah. Ask Allah for the strength to fight those demons, to stand up to them. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you and avoid that evil act. Practice self-control. Think about the effects of those sins. Don't think about the pleasure of the sin and how good it feels or looks, or think about how bitter it is when you suffer the same consequence from making that sin that you did last year or last week or yesterday. And be around righteous people. And technically look at why you're making this sin. Are you depressed? Are you stressed out? Are you lonely? Are you by yourself? You have extra money? You have extra time? Everyone understand this? You need to get married. It has to be a reason why you're making that sin. Pinpoint that reason and ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to help you, and use all of your strength and power to focus all your energy on getting married, or not living by yourself, or not living in a place in which there are a lot of bars, or not being around these type of people, or doing something positive with your money. What heck is that? And Allah knows best.
SA from Ontario, Canada. How will the female companions cover their hands? What portion of the hand must be covered?
This will be our last question tonight. Question comes from Ontario, Canada. How did the female companions cover their hands? What portion of the hand must be covered? The hadith about the man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him what the muhrim, what the pilgrim should wear, and what the pilgrim can wear. The Prophet ﷺ did not answer his question like he wanted his question to be answered. Instead of telling him what the pilgrim wears, he told him what the pilgrim should not wear. He told him what the pilgrim cannot wear when you're in the state of ihram, going on Hajj or Umrah. What you can't wear in the state of what? Hajj or Umrah, ihram. And that is a tremendous amount of wisdom. Because if the Prophet ﷺ told the muhrim what to wear, there may come a time and or place of the raqib in which the people don't find the thing that the Prophet told them to wear. But if the Prophet told them what they can't wear, that proves that you can wear what? Anything and everything else unless it falls under that prohibition. The wisdom of the Sharia. And that's why the haram things are always going to be mentioned less. And the halal things are not always going to be mentioned and kept. Everyone understand this? Right. So that being said, the hadith states at the end of it, وَلَا تَنْتَقِبُ الْمَرْأَةُ الْمُسْلِمَةُ أو الْمُحْرِمَةُ وَلَا تَلْبَسُ الْقُفَّازَيْنِ. It says, and a woman who's in ihram should not wear niqab, nor can she wear quffazain, meaning gloves. Little translation is gloves. The scholars of hadith, they differ over this hadith. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and others. Is that the word of the Prophet ﷺ, or is that the statement of Abdullah ibn Umar? Did the Prophet say that, or was it the statement of Ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma? هل هو مرفوع أو منقوف? Mudraj. Okay? Whether it's the Prophet's statement or the statement of Ibn Umar, it proves that in the time of the Prophet, or the time of Ibn Umar, who lived in the time of the Prophet, covering the hands with gloves was what? No. It was known. The practice was what? The practice was known. For him to even mention it. If he mentions burnus, a hood, meaning that in their time they had hoods. They had garments that had what? Hoods. If the Prophet ﷺ says, don't wear a hood when you make ihram, that means in his time there were hoods. If the Prophet ﷺ says, don't wear pants, sirwal, meaning in the time of the Prophet there were things called pants. They had pants. They had pants during his time. So therefore, gloves were well known. So therefore, that which is obligatory if you're going to cover your hands is that your hands are covered. With gloves, with your khimar, with a shawl, your pockets, like it's in a hoodie, whatever, however you cover your hands, as long as the hands are what? Covered, and they're not exposed to someone whom they should not be exposed to. So there's a man who isn't your mahram, he should not see your hands. He shouldn't see this side, he shouldn't see that side, he shouldn't see the tips of your fingers, he shouldn't see nothing from your hands if he is not your mahram. Everyone understand this? However you wish to cover your hands in any way or manner or fashion that you want to do. The simplest, easiest way to keep your hands covered when you're outside of the house or inside of the house or you're in the hospital or in the store, wherever you are, which you're not mahram in, is to wear gloves. Especially if your kimar is going to rise up, just wear gloves. Make it simple, make it easy on yourself. But there's no obligation of wearing gloves. The only thing which is obligatory, according to those ulama who say that a woman's hands are a part of her awrah, is to do what? Cover the hands. And the hands have to be covered, all of them. Nothing from the hand is to be exposed unless there is a necessity. Unless there's a what? A necessity. Let's say if a sister needed her fingertips for something, she had to type. That's one thing, if it was a necessity. Alhamdulillah, nowadays they have gloves in which what? For touch screen, in which you don't need to do that anymore. And Allah knows best, perhaps, maybe the Muslims, alhamdulillah, Muslim inventors, maybe they can make gloves which aren't winter gloves that are touch screen friendly. Just like